Essay: Middle class unemployment. What is meant by middle class? Causes its unemployment: economic, social, educational, the changing situation, dangers of middle class unemployment. We hear a great deal these days about middle class unemployment. In order to understand what exactly is meant by it, it is necessary to have a clear idea of the term middle class. To say, as the Oxford Dictionary says, that is, the class between the upper and the lower classes conveys little meaning. Broadly speaking, the middle class is the class, that section of the society, the members of which have some education and earn their livelihood with the help of that education. It may be only such education as it is imparted in the secondary school, or it may be university or professional education. The class excludes, on the hand, those who depend for their livelihood exclusively on the landed property, stocks, and shares, and other sources of unearned income. On the other hand, it excludes manual workers of all types, whether skilled or unskilled. Before the First World War, middle class unemployment in our country was not an acute problem because members of this community usually had a steady supplementary income from small landed property. But sub-infeudation of the land property gradually made it necessary for ever increasing numbers of sick avenues of unemployment in the cities, which are developing rapidly on the wake of commercial and industrial expansion. Unfortunately, the scope for unemployment did not keep pace with the demand for it. The acute competition for jobs and resulted led to a fall in wages, and this again made it necessary for larger numbers to try to augment the family income. The gravity of the situation was increased after the war by large scale retrenchments in the military departments, as well as by selfish schemes of rationalization adopted by capitalist owners of the instrument of production and distribution. This would not have been so acute if there had been adequate industrial development in the country. But the growth of industries has not been so rapid nor so well planned as to absorb all available personnel. The social system in our country used to be a cause for increasing unemployment. This joint family system made it possible for a larger number of semi educated young men to live on the common family income and save their class prestige by remaining unemployed rather than seek employment outside the traditional groups of what are known as white collar jobs. Early marriage also created larger families and added to the number of the unemployed family. Finally, the caste system based on profession created artificial barriers that prevented the easy transfer of the unemployed in one caste to seek opportunities in another. Perhaps our ill planned educational system has something to do with middle class unemployment by encouraging a too literary or liberal education. Young men were discouraged to or drawn away from manual work. It was considered derogatory for young men of this community to put their hand to the plowing or the hammer. Of course, it has to be considered that even if they had received industrial education, our industries have not yet capacity to absorb all of them. Short-sighted political ideas also multiplied unemployment. Thus, the weightage given to one section of the community among whom the problem of middle class unemployment was not acute added to the number of the unemployment in another community where the demand for jobs was already excessive. But a far more important cause was the artificial partition of India on communal basis. This created an enormous refugees population evicted from their homeland, deprived of their usual resources of livelihood. They became homeless wanderers in regions which did not open them scope for carrying on their traditional vocation. This has caused acute unemployment among a virile people. Of course, many of these causes are gradual ceasing to be operative. The caste system has almost broken down, and a Brahmin today is not adverse to taking up even a leather industry. The joint family system has lost its rigidity, and we have increasing number of educated young men ready and even eager to stand on their legs. Manual work has acquired new prestige, and educated men are quite willing to handle the route of trade which their fathers would not have touched. As the middle class include intellectual section of the community, unemployment here is likely to have dangerous consequences for the state. Widespread economic distress among community increases the number of discontented young men who apply their brains to seek a radical solution for their distress. Thus, they study the basic causes of problem and seek their swift removal by revolutionary means. And unemployed middle class brings instability in the state, for the ablest among them become the natural leaders of political agitation. No government can view this possibility with equanimity. The British handled the problem At wrong end, they tried to restrict education so that instead of an educated community to deal with, they would have an uneducated community to of unemployed, which they thought was a much less difficult proposition to handle. It is only recently that we have begun to think anew and to tackle the problem as seriously as it deserves. To prevent the increase of unemployment, we must have a clear statistical picture of our requirements of trained personnel in different spheres. It is a good sign that steps are being taken to obtain correct information regarding requirements in the various spheres of employment. Once these are obtained, the task of training the necessary number of men for each department will be facilitated. But this is only a preliminary steps. Avenues of employment must be created to cope with the demand for employment. The introduction of free education up to the age contemplated in constitution would create a demand for a million of teachers all over the country. The expansion of our industrial economy is a healthy movement, and it will absorb increasing numbers as mechanics and engineers. The development of mechanized agriculture will need the services of a large number of trained personnel, and the improved villages of the future will reconcile them to rural life not only by providing them with a variety of jobs but the facilities of modern town life as well. The supply of electric power to small scale industries will also help revival of indigenous cottage industries, and this will provide employment for many. As our country extend their activities in the various nation building departments, they will also offer suitable jobs to increasing number of young men. The government also should exercise pressure on the mercantile firms and industrial organizations to find employment for the maximum number of young men. Retrenchment should be allowed only as a last resort when all other efforts to cut down losses have failed. Thank you.